type that in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. We only have about 40 people right now, so you know, you can just unmute yourself and ask a question.
Vanessa, can I check my screen share to see if you can see it?
Sure. If that's for your breakout, maybe what you can do is 5 minutes or 10 minutes prior to the session, because you're using Sarah's link, Sarah from our BaySci team.
Okay.
You guys can join a little bit early to your breakout session and test the share screen there. She can also make you the host, which gives you access to your control panel.
Okay, so Sarah is my helper.
Mm-hmm.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
She's waving to you, Sarah Pedamonte.
Oh, where's Sarah? Oh, hey, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah.
No problem. I'll see you then.
Great. Okay. So I'm making sure that everybody can hear my audio. Oh, and Chris has a question.
Yeah, I went on my Padlet this morning. I'm Chris Parsons. I went on my Padlet this morning and someone had added a meditation script to it, and it's very nice, but it's not part of my session. And I don't know if they thought I needed it, but anyways, so I don't know if it's something that we can either remove. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but anyway, so I thought I'd ask about it.
Yeah, I saw your email, Chris, this morning, and I forwarded it to our project manager, Rosalind Sarvi. And I'm not sure if it was a posting, an accidental posting from a round 1 or round 2 session, or if it was a facilitator in the round 3 session, another facilitator
who
accidentally posted it.
Yeah.
So I think Rosalind can just respond to your email and let you know where she's put it, just in case we get communication from another facilitator who
that's looking for it,
accidentally put it in the wrong place. But thank you for letting us know. So I see a comment in the chat that that maybe my audio is a little bit faint. Is that true? Does it sound a little bit faint to some people? Okay, it feels okay. Okay, all right. Great, okay. Well, again, if there's any other burning tech questions, go ahead and write those in the chat box. And if you can just remember to identify your tech question with some sort of modifier in the beginning so that we know where to sift through. And you can go ahead and let us know where you're joining from, and then maybe give us a response to what excites you today for joining day 2 of the Open Space Conference. So name, where you're from, and what excites you today for joining our Open Space Conference. So if you're joining us, this is the tech support and conversation. If you have a tech support question, if you can write it in the chat. And then if you don't have a tech support question, if you can let us know where you're from and a response to the question, what excites you today joining day 2 of the Open Space? So I see Kentucky, Texas, Tennessee, California, Sonoma, one of our San Francisco Bay Area neighbors, Virginia, and we've got some facilitators that are excited to be leading the discussion. We have people who are excited about learning more of tools, exploring actual strategies to move forward in the work. The water quality field trip, very cool. Oh, thank you, Rudy. The BaySci team loves you too. We have Maryland, Nevada, Florida. So if you're joining us, we are typing where we're from in the chat and a response to the question, what excites you today in joining day 2 of the Open Space Conference? And lots of comments around sharing and building connections. We invite you all, if you are particularly interested in connecting with people after the fact, after your session, to feel free to offer up the idea of posting contact information into that session's Padlet. And just know that we will not leave it up in perpetuity, but we'll leave it up probably for a couple of weeks if it has contact information of individuals, and then we'll take it down. But we will make sure to save a version of that Padlet and send it out to all the registrants so that session participants have the contact information of their session groups. Hi, Mary from Monterey Bay Aquarium. San Diego, Davis, Santa Cruz. So lots of people excited for more learning, more sharing. Oregon, Washington. Thank you all for joining us. Pennsylvania, and it looks like a mix of formal education districts and school folks and community organizations, environmental education organizations, outdoor science education organizations, all with us today. If you're just joining us, we are writing where we're from or where you're joining us from today, for today, and also what is exciting you today of day 2 during the conference. What are you excited about engaging with us? Or maybe it's the keynote, maybe it's the session topic, maybe it's seeing familiar faces again in some of the sessions that you participated in yesterday. We have Texas, Washington, D.C., Hawaii. And we just invite you too, that if you do have particular questions, just a reminder that open space is for the people and by the people. And so if you have a burning question within your particular session, feel free to write that in the chat box. Open space is an opportunity for each session participant and each session group to kind of lead themselves through a path of discussion. And if you've got a burning question that you want discussed, you can always ask that in the session context and environment. Facilitators have been given guidance on how to what kinds of group agreements and some even prompt questions. Some of them may choose to use them or not. And, we want to make sure that every participant gets what they are hoping to get out of this open space conference within the confines of the open space structure.
I have a question.
Yes, Janet.
There are so many great sessions, and I'd love to reconnect with some of the people who deliver them that I couldn't go to. So shall I just look them up online by their name and organization, or is there any connection, contact information that I can get from you? How would I do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do have the full registration list, but we didn't, when people registered, we didn't ask if they were okay with sharing their contact information. But if there's a particular person that you're interested in connecting with, you can, from now going forward to the end of today, you can privately message them and ask them for their contact information. If you don't remember their email or you remember
I'm specifically looking at people who were facilitators and talking with them, not necessarily people I was in the group with.
Got it. Yeah, so that is easy. You can just look on our schedule website, find their name, and then go into the group chat.
Okay.
And then type in their name, and their name should pop up, and you can privately message them for their contact information.
Thank you.
Okay. So I do want to go ahead and get us started. And as we officially begin the conference, I would just like to remind you all how you can see more of BaySci, Beetles, and the Lawrence Hall of Science. We have our open space contact information on our homepage of the conference. And if you're interested in learning more about BaySci and/or Beetles programs, we invite you to visit our website found at the bottom of our slideshow today. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Craig Strang.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on day 2 of the conference. So I want to welcome you all back. I presume that many of you were with us yesterday, but there also may be people who were not able to join yesterday and are coming today for the first time. So we're going to review a little bit of the welcome information and logistics that we presented yesterday, but I'll go through it as quickly as I can and get to the good stuff as fast as possible. So yesterday and today, we are focusing our open space discussions and our keynote presentation on informal formal partnerships to survive, emphasis on the survive and thrive, the impacts of COVID-19, promote equity, and keep science and environmental literacy alive. And I think we're acknowledging that both
administration and Congress are very far apart on a deal.
Someone, thank you. If you can stay muted when you're not talking, that would be great. we want to acknowledge that both the informal environmental education and outdoor science community and the formal K through 12 system in the United States are both facing risks of epic proportions, and that today is one small effort to try and help those two communities and two fields to come together in mutually beneficial ways to solve each other's problems and rise to this challenge that really is of epic proportions. We want to acknowledge again, as yesterday, that almost anywhere that you all are, it's likely that that you are on stolen and occupied land. And I want to let you all know that I'm speaking to you today from Berkeley, California, which is the land of the Chochenyo Ohlone people. And I invite you all to enter into the chat the names of the people whose land you are participating from in your local area, and acknowledge and honor the people whose land we're currently living on. So if you want to go ahead and enter into the chat, you're welcome to do that. I also want to draw attention to the fact that yesterday we opened the conference by acknowledging that systemic racism in our country affects not only our policing systems, but is also embedded in our education system. And I want to let you know that yesterday's keynote speaker, Dr. Andrea Kane, who's the superintendent of Queen Anne's County schools in Maryland, let us know yesterday afternoon after her keynote presentation that she has come under attack in her school district. At the end of school last spring, in early June, she sent a letter home to families, which at the end of her 2-page letter asked that her community would openly acknowledge and have meaningful dialogue about racism that exists both in her county and throughout the country. And she came under severe attack for stating that. She's the first Black superintendent in the school district, and there is a call to remove her from her position as superintendent. The school board and other government officials have not come to her aid. The county sheriff and other government officials are supporting the efforts of the Kent Island Patriots to remove her from her position. And parents and community members and teachers and families in the county have also risen up and have put together this petition that we wanted to let you all know about as well. The link to the petition is going to appear any second in our chat. And we encourage you to learn more about the situation in Queen Anne's County and to consider offering support to Dr. Kane, who gave an amazing presentation yesterday. Next slide. We wanted to share with you some of the feedback we got from yesterday. There were many dozens of comments in the Gots and Needs in appreciation of Dr. Kane's keynote. Many that used the word inspiration. This one said, I got inspiration from Dr. Kane, makes me want to be a superintendent. It's the first time that I've ever heard anyone say that they wanted to be a superintendent who was not already a superintendent. So that's high praise. Another person said, we need to pivot and start with what our community needs rather than what we can offer. Really insightful. Another person said, I got that people have a lot of questions and there aren't enough answers. However, these discussions offer folks ideas that will hopefully lead to answers. And I think that's, in one sentence, that sums up the purpose of open space, to bring people together to solve problems where obvious solutions don't exist, where a simple presentation or a PowerPoint presentation is not going to provide the answer to the problems of the complexity that we're facing right now that no one has ever faced before. Another person said, I got, oh, so much. It feels good to see familiar faces and meet new people. Everyone has been open and about sharing resources to contribute the student success in this new reality. I reflected on equitable practices in recruitment, resources for teachers, and possible funding sources. It was very beneficial to have a combination of formal and non-formal educators in the open space together. Thank you. And so that comment really sums up dozens of others that we got in appreciation for the sessions that you all led yesterday. There were also needs that came up. Someone said, there's lots of California-based information. I thought this was a global conference, my mistake. Tons of formal educators, not many informal educators. And I wanted to share this one because the session that you're choosing to be in may or may not be representative of the larger group, and it may not be a group that meets your particular needs at that time. The participants in yesterday's meetings were largely from outside California, and there were actually more informal educators than formal educators in the larger group. So if you were in a group that was not what you were expecting, feel free to join another group. Someone said, I need ways to engage with people I met and did not have a chance to meet. This just came up a few minutes ago in the tech support. We did not ask permission from all of you to share your contact information. So we will not be sending out a list of everyone who registered. If there are people who you would like to connect with following the conference, please private chat them during the meeting and exchange email addresses as best you can. I need the sessions I listen to could use reminders that we must always look through the lens of equity, inclusion, and cultural relevance. We can't lose sight of that. Thank you very much for that reminder. I need a nap. This was a long time to be online without a break. Other people commented that they wished it was longer, and you'll see that come up in just a minute. I wish some sessions had been curated or more organized. Open space is great, but sometimes a traditional presentation is more helpful, especially given the urgent circumstances. So you can't win them all. Not every session is going to be exactly what you were looking for. The purpose of open space is discussion rather than presentation. And that's the particular niche that this kind of experience is designed to fill. Next slide. I would love to have the time to explore and develop some potential collaborations. The discussions have been long enough to essentially get to the heart of the conversation by the end, but not long enough to build towards solutions. Hopefully there will be a forum or format which allows us to keep conversation and momentum going beyond these sessions. So we encourage you again to keep the discussions going beyond the 1 hour that you're engaged today. Exchange email addresses and form your own learning communities. With a few of these BEETLES sessions, I found myself wishing for more concrete suggestions or recommendations rather than just facilitation of discussion. Some discussions end up being great and informative while others are not. This is a reality of any conference, I'm sure, but something to consider when asking for sessions in the future. And then similarly, we would have liked more concrete sessions for some of the questions, more concrete solutions for some of the questions. Also, it was tough to choose between the sessions. We would have liked more breakout times with fewer sessions to choose from, but I appreciate the small group size. So again, I want to remind you of one of the principles of open space, the principle of movement. It's your responsibility that if you find yourself in a session that's not meeting your needs, where you're not being productive and you feel that it's not productive for you to be there, please, please, please leave that session and join another one that you think might be more beneficial for you. The final needs that we'll show is this one. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll just leave it up there for you. I just want to say I promise that no one on our staff wrote this. It's a lovely testimonial, and I wanted to offer appreciation to whoever wrote it and say that I particularly appreciated the advice that this person is providing to funders to provide more funding for the BEETLES and BaySci projects. awesome advice. So thank you, and I hope that these open space conferences do address your needs for coming together and solving problems together collaboratively for to address situations that none of us have addressed before. Okay, a little bit of framing before we launch into this morning's keynote. I want to kind of remind everyone of some of the data that supports the theme of the conference today. We know that the entire outdoor education and environmental education field is at grave risk of disappearing as a result of COVID-19. Only 37% of all the programs in the country think that they are likely to reopen ever if they remain closed until December 31st, which seems a high likelihood. So those of us on the informal side, are at risk of seeing nearly our entire field disappear in a 6-month period. At the same time, next slide, please, our school systems are facing an equal challenge. The remote learning experiment that we were forced into last spring was a disaster for communities of color and low-income communities. We know that. We hope it'll be better in the fall when we remain in 100% distance learning, remote learning in most of the country. But what you can see here is that on the left-hand side of the chart, in school systems that had 75% or greater low-income students, those students, about 32%, a third of those students were considered truant, not able to participate in any or almost any online activities. So over a third of the students in low-income districts were not participating in any educational activities for the last 3 months of the school year. And similarly, in districts that were in the highest levels of poverty, those children had access to the least live instruction. 14% of kids in high poverty districts had access to live instruction last spring. So we know that these are challenges that are overwhelming on both sides of the equation. And we think that if the available environmental education workforce can come together and redeploy their educators into school systems and bring kids back to school for face-to-face learning, that we can get more kids in in-person learning, more kids outdoors in healthy, safe, engaging environments. And that's the purpose of today, is to try and think through what those partnerships might look like. Okay, very briefly, I'm just going to click through, or Jetta's going to help me click through some slides very quickly. I want to remind you that the Lawrence Hall of Science is convening this meeting together, and we're available to provide support to school districts, math and science, and to the informal ed community after this meeting. You all, on the other hand, represent people from all over the country and all over the world. Here's the map of registrants as of shortly before we began yesterday. And you can see again, the green is the community partners. There are more of you than there are school districts, even though some sessions were heavily weighted the other direction. Next slide.
Craig, I'm going to skip to the keynote slide because I want Anupama to have all her time.
Yep. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I want to now move immediately to introducing Anupama. Her bio is on the conference website, so I'm not going to repeat everything that's there, but I want to let you all know that she was the co-founder of the Farm to School network that she created in 2007, an amazing effort nationwide that influenced our food systems in schools. And in 2018, she became the director of the Blue Sky Funders Forum. Blue Sky Funders Forum is a collection of foundations that are coming together under Anupama's guidance to learn how to be more effective and more efficient at their own giving related to supporting the environmental and science and outdoor education field. And the Blue Sky Funders Forum not only is providing that kind of guidance and professional learning for funders, but also raising the prominence and the profile of environmental giving nationwide and attracting more funders and more foundations into our field. So for all of us, formal and informal educators that are supporting science, outdoor science, and environmental education, Anupama is really our best friend in the philanthropy community. So it's a great pleasure, great honor to introduce Anupama, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Craig, and greetings, everybody. I'm calling in from Cary, North Carolina, which is the land of the Catawba people. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Jetta or Vanessa, I can't share my screen. I need to get access to doing that. Should I try again?
Not yet. Okay, now you should be able to. Sorry about that.
No worries. All right, are you seeing my screen? Craig, I see you. If you give me a thumbs up. Thank you. Excellent. Well, greetings. It's fantastic to be here, and thanks for the kind introduction, Craig. I hope you're all feeling energized and inspired from day one of the conference. I have to say, I'm just super impressed with the open space model for the entire conference, and open space is a lot to pull off in person for 1,000 people, and you guys have been doing it for more than 1,000 people virtually. So kudos to the team at Lawrence Hall of Science. A huge shout out for making this happen and supporting this format for the participants at the conference. As Craig mentioned, we are living in unprecedented times for sure. And over the last 5 months, I'm sure all of you have been in various conversations that are about the survival of the environmental education organizations, virtual learning, its benefits, its access issues, layoffs, park closures, school closures, and school reopening plans as well as we're also witnessing and are part of lots of conversations about the strong uprising and the demand for racial justice that we're seeing in the country. These are issues I feel that really can't be addressed in isolation, and it needs to be tackled together. So my hope today is, and my hope for the conference as well, is that we are able to sort of think about breaking down silos, think about coming together for the common good, and make connections with non-traditional allies and partners. And I'm hoping to give you some examples that I'm seeing from my vantage point, and hopefully that inspires you further. So as Craig mentioned, the Blue Sky Funders Forum, our mission is to inspire, deepen, and expand philanthropy to strengthen communities by advancing environmental literacy and connections to nature. So, there was a comment earlier about additional funding for the field and more funding needed. As Craig said, I am your friend, Blue Sky is your friend. We certainly are partners in this together, and I hope you feel that way. Blue Sky members are grant-making organizations, and these can be private foundations or federal grant makers or corporate foundations as well. Anybody that provides funding for environmental literacy, for outdoor learning and outdoor recreation. So I'll give you a couple of examples of what I've seen from the funder community in terms of response to the pandemic and the crises that we are facing now. First of all, we've seen funders participate in rapid response relief funds that are mostly geographically focused, but there are some thematic focused ones as well. And I have not seen one specifically for environmental education or outdoor learning. Secondly, funders have been reaching out to check in on grantees, and I hope many of your funders have done that for you as well, to understand your emerging needs. Many of them have hosted open calls for grantees to just share what's going on, and with them and with other grantees as well. Many funders have provided additional funding support by way of bridge grants, Some have provided flexibility for using grant funds, so moving from program funds to general support funds. Some have provided flexibility in terms of using the grant timeline, so providing no-cost extensions or more flexibility in proposal or reporting requirements. Some have provided non-monetary support as well, including things like sharing platforms for virtual learning or providing training sessions for self-care and healing from trauma. So these are just some examples that I thought I would share with you, and there's probably many more as well. Blue Sky as a funders network has certainly hosted community calls for funders to delve into topics such as these over the last 5 months, and will continue to hold these places for funders to come together. But in September this year, September 8th to the 10th, we will also be hosting a virtual funder convening to bring in funders and from across the country with grantee partners to reimagine the field and to rethink how funders and grantees can be partners in the future to build a stronger future for the field. So here's another example of something that the Blue Sky community has done that is sort of a service to the field. Blue Sky funders, in partnership with other field leaders about 3 years back, started the creation of a shared narrative to bring in new allies, partners, and funds to the field. When we started our research showed that the current narrative around connecting people with nature was not resonating outside of our echo chamber. The perception was that time spent in nature was a nice to have, not a necessity. And there was a limited understanding of the equity issues related to access to outdoor learning and space. And so in a nutshell, the narrative was sounding elitist and was elitist. In October last year, Blue Sky launched a campaign called Rethink Outside, which is a call to action to change this prevailing narrative that we're seeing using a shared narrative that is based on a values-based messaging framework. With COVID-19, we saw a dramatic shift in attitude towards the outdoors. Due to the shelter-in-place orders, we've seen many more people going out for walks or runs, many more people engaged in gardens, and just finding value in the time they've been spending in nature, both for physical health and for mental health. The impacts of the pandemic have not been an equalizer with regards to who has been affected by the virus. Obviously, communities of color seeing more cases and more deaths, but also who has access to nature and green spaces to alleviate the stresses that have come with the pandemic. The pandemic has also been a magnifier of the inequities that were already present in our society. Healthy outcomes and healthcare access, park access, outdoor space access. What is different now, I think, is that these two are seen as interconnected issues, which again, they always were, but the links were not as clearly articulated and apparent to people outside of our echo chamber. The challenge for the field now is that how we maintain the interest in nature so that it remains a necessity for good health, for stronger communities, and doesn't fade away when we are not in a pandemic. Given this, the Rethink Outside call to action is even more relevant now in the current context. And if we want to move the narrative from nature being a nice to have to a necessity, and that its benefits are a basic human right. About 5 months back, when the pandemic started, we heard a need from the field that organizations such as yours needed guidance and framework on how to communicate about the importance and the utility of your work in the current context of the pandemic and the rising call for racial justice. So Blue Sky responded, and with the support of the Pisces Foundation, we've developed a messaging brief that is built on the 5 value statements of the shared narrative. I'm not going to go through each one of these, but the 5 value statements are essentially in light blue and light green on your screen, and this is available online, so you can take a look at it later. We can put it in the chat box, the link for you. And we customized these value statements for COVID-19 and provided guidance on how you could use it for the current context to tell your stories. So what we suggest is a 4-step process for storytelling using the messaging architecture in the last slide. Firstly, introduce the issue. What is the issue that you're wanting to have a conversation about or tell a story about? Second, what is your frame? Use the 5 value statements on the last slide. They are great places to start in terms of framing your issue as to what is it inherently, what is the value that you're trying to get out? Thirdly, what is the data or the reasons to believe, what data or stories that you can pick up from your work that will be supplementing the value statement. And last but not the least, what is your call to action? So don't leave people hanging, make a call to action, conclude with what your ask is for them. So the messaging brief also provides general guidance on crisis communications, what to say, what not to say, when to say it, and some words to use and not to use. All of these resources are available for free on the Rethink Outside website, and we're making these resources available to you with or without COVID. We're all in this together, funders, EE practitioners, researchers, media, and influencers. It's really been encouraging to see the Rethink Outside core message and values pop in the media organically. Many of you have seen these, many of you have probably authored these as well. So thank you for doing that, for elevating the importance of the outdoors in the pandemic. We've also seen many examples of partnerships that have emerged in the last couple of months that give me hope that we are successfully building partnerships and expanding the influence of the EE community. Here are just some examples. I'm not going to go through them specifically, but you'll see that they range from partnerships between the outdoor industry, partnerships between EE providers and legislators to pass legislation. I know there's surveys that have been done and continue to be done in different states to really dig in on what the impacts of this pandemic are going to be on the field. So if the Rethink Outside core message and value statements that I just shared with you align with your organization, I encourage you to pledge your support for the narrative and become a partner of the campaign. We are providing two communication services through this campaign at cost. One is access to a story writing professional to help you develop a compelling story that then you can use for bringing in new allies and partners, make the case, promote your work, secure more funding, whatever your specific goals are. And you can see we have an online story bank that has some examples of stories that we've helped develop. Secondly, we're providing storytelling workshops. At the end of this workshop, you will emerge with a draft of your story, if not complete, that aligns with the value statements of the shared narrative. And we are working, as Blue Sky Funders Forum, we are working with the funders in our network to support their grantees in receiving these services. So I highly encourage you to explore these with your existing funders and with your potential funders to support you in telling a compelling story that is useful in the current context, but also useful for you in terms of your capacity building. There are two upcoming opportunities that I wanted to call to your attention. One, the funders convening that I mentioned in September. If any of your funders would be interested in participating, please encourage them to connect with the Blue Sky Funders Forum. And then secondly, the storytelling workshop that I mentioned, one session is coming up in October and registration is open for that. So mark these dates, and information about these is available on our website. We can also plug it into the chat box. So as I mentioned earlier, Blue Sky certainly sees you all as partners in our quest to rethink the narrative around outdoor learning and play, and encourages you to think about how you frame your work and who you engage with and why you do the work you do and how you do it. So in conclusion, my call to action for you is threefold. One, engage in Rethink Outside, use the narrative, and tell us how you're using the narrative. Tag us on social media so that we can be in community. Second, use the narrative and the resources and the services that are available through Rethink Outside. And third, share information with your funders about the Blue Sky Funders Forum and the convening that we're hosting in September. You are our ears and eyes in the field, and each one of you can help us expand the circle of funding that supports this important work. So I thank you for being here. Thank you for inviting me. And if we have time, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much for that. Lots of very great ideas and helping us think about this. If you have any questions, type them in the chat. And if you see a question that you agree with and you want to ask us, put a +1 next to it. And this is an important information that I think we can all benefit from thank you for sharing that and that framework for the communication, for telling the stories. Can you, while we wait for the questions to emerge in the chat, can you tell a little bit more about the power of the stories and how we can think about using them to create more of the agenda that we need to move forward?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think there's sort of various goals that you can find for storytelling. The first one being influence. And so are you trying to influence media? You're trying to influence public opinion, policymakers, funders? Storytelling and stories are really a great format for sharing information about your work, about your issue with any audience, honestly, and you can sort of tweak it based on who your audience is. So I mean, I've heard of the stories that we've curated through Rethink Outside so far. There are about 16 or 17 stories that we've supported. I've heard organizations, over and over say that they really didn't think about their work in a certain way. So they might have been a conservation organization, didn't really think about their work as also touching on and touching on and supporting youth development. Or social justice, and so it's storytelling and sort of digging into telling a story. Also, using that framework also gives you an opportunity to look at your work in a different way and rethink the work that you're doing, so that you're able to bring in a variety of different funders and partners and allies into your work, and sort of secure partnerships and funding as well.
Thank you. And related to the funding, there is a question. Sarah Barnes asked the question about what shifts have you seen in the approach of funders in the Blue Sky Group since it started? And can you give an example?
Sure. So Blue Sky Funders Forum started about 5 years back, and we've been tracking funding in the field for the last couple of years. And we are seeing increases in the funding that's going to environmental literacy generally, across the country. So it's about 5.7% of the overall environmental funding currently. However, the good trend is that the rate at which environmental literacy funding is increasing over the last couple of years is much faster than other environmental funding. So there's sort of, if you look at it in terms of how many more funders are getting into the environmental literacy space, there's more that's happening over the last couple of years. So that's encouraging. That's helpful.
Thank you very much. One other quick question is about, what if you are a public school teacher who has ideas that radically rethink learning, but school starts on August 10th? Are there any rapid funding options that you know of?
I would suggest looking at your sort of local and state funding options that are available. There are many foundations that are doing rapid response funds, but within specific geographic regions. And so I would encourage you to sort of look at your community foundations in your state or in your region.
Sorry about that. There was some.
No, that's okay. So I would just recommend you to look at your community foundations, look at the foundations that are supporting programs that are place-based in your location or within your state or in your region. Those would be the folks to go to for rapid response.
Thank you so much for that. And we have some other ideas to keep thinking about. I'm going to turn it back to Jetta to send us to the next session. Jetta.
Great. Thank you so much, Anupama and Harold. That was wonderful. I'm gonna share my screen here just to show the schedule again, and to say that there's a 10-minute break now before the round 3 discussions start. Remember that you can, on the schedule, you can go straight to the round 3 discussions, and you can scroll through and find what you wanted to join. You have to leave this meeting and then click to join the next Zoom for each discussion. There was one cancellation in round 3, adaptations in plants and animals. So if you were planning to go to that, please choose a new session to go to. We had thought there was a second cancellation, but it's actually back live again. So if your screen doesn't look like this, make sure you refresh your website just so all the current everything gets updated. And with that, this will become officially the watering hole. So if anyone needs any tech support or any other anything as we go through, one of us will be here in the watering hole, and we'll see you at the closing at 1:10 for those of you that can make it.
All right, I just stayed on, Jedi, in case there were questions or other things that I'm just looking through it. Let me know.
Great.
Hope
Yeah.
that met your expectations. Yeah.
If anyone has questions for Nupama, feel free to unmute yourself, and we have a few minutes before the next round starts.
I don't have any questions, but Anupama, I'm excited to see you also speak at the Natural Start Alliance conference this week. I see you're double
Tomorrow.
booked as well. Yeah. So
Let's look at the Oregon one as well earlier this week. So it's like a triple speaking engagement week.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's
absolutely.
good to connect with you all.
Yeah, for sure. I work in Washington State doing early childhood outdoor education. We have the pilot project to license outdoor preschools, making them more publicly available. So I know that people in the early learning community are really interested in hearing from you as well. So very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, I look forward to it too. You probably hear a little bit more, of the same that I shared, but a little more details if we have more time. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, I'll let you go. I could talk for a while.
That's fine. No worries. I did see in the chat box that there was someone who mentioned that they had used the narrative for grant applications with some local foundations, and that had been successful. So that might just be something to pick out, Jeda and Vanessa, if you wanted to. I had not heard that before, so that's good to hear.
Great.
All right, I'm going to hop off now, folks. Thank you again, the team at Lawrence Hall, for the invite, and good luck with the rest of the conference. Again, hats off to you all for doing this virtual open space thing. I can't even think about it. But you're pulling it off. Good luck.
Thank you so much for spending
much.
time with us.
Absolutely. Take care.
Other folks that are on here, let us know if you need any support. Feel free to unmute yourself or type in the chat. And yeah.
I mostly just wanted to stay on to confirm because I wasn't able to join yesterday. So I just wanted to make sure that I know everything that I'm supposed to know, because I'm hosting a conversation in session 4, so in a few hours. And I just want to make sure that all I have to do is also just click on the Zoom link that's on the website. I haven't missed a special host link or something. No.
Right. Yeah. I'm looking up who your so your Zoom host is someone named Kelly, and they'll log in a few minutes early, and you'll be able to connect with them if you want about any technicalities. But yeah, you're just using that same exact link to join.
And great. And is that also if people have things, or if I have things I want to share on a screen, I can just share my screen, or do I need to submit anything beforehand?
You can share your screen, and then Kelly, you can let Kelly know if you want breakouts and for how long, and she can do it in real time. Yeah. She can also make you, or you could request to be a co-host so that if you want control over that, but she's really there to be, your
live tech support.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Great.
And you can tell her, Kelly, can you break us out into groups of 4 right now? And she'll do it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it goes and how many people attend. Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Looking forward to it. Have a good day, guys. Thanks so much for all your work.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm a little lost. Where am I going right now?
Yeah. So this is actually, I'm sure the other 32 people that are still in the session have the same burning question. So this is the main session. And what you want to do is you want to click on the red button at the bottom of your Zoom screen and click leave. But before you do that, you want to make sure that you have the Beatles schedule page open. So I'm just going to copy that and paste it one more time in the chat. And let's see. Share my chat window. Okay, so schedule. Okay, so that will take you to the schedule.
Okay.
And then you'll see that the next breakout starts at 10:45. And you can either scroll down to round 3, or you can just click on that link, concurrent discussions round 3, and it'll take you to the bottom of the page where the round 3 sessions are. And you can find or select the round 3 breakout session that you're interested in joining.
Okay.
And right below that session description is a link for you to click on to a next Zoom.
Okay. And do we come back here or?
So you will have a 15-minute break between round 3 and round 4 for you to just kind of get a snack, you know, check on anyone or animal that needs to be checked on, and then start your round 4 session. And then this session, everyone will come back at 1:10 for the closing.
Okay. I'll do that.
So this is also the same link as the watering hole, and you can always, you know, come back here if you have questions or trouble navigating the schedule, and I can go ahead and help you, or Jetta.
Okay. Okay. So I'll leave right now and go to that one. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.